We got picked up around 6 p.m. We got in the car with two strangers I know from work on a Wednesday. We've had this plan for a few days to go to the lake and hang out until around 8 p.m. I started talking to these individuals at work, a guy and a girl. They know a coworker of mine, and I relate to these people through art, creative endeavors. We started driving around, talking about life and art until my throat is dry. Greek mythology, culture, aliens, and shit like that. She's all like, I draw these eyes, and I leave them around places with moon shapes like crescents. I was like, oh, you like, a surrealist kind of piece, like maybe pseudo realism, and we were talking about that for a little bit. We were driving around for like 30 minutes trying to get this guy named Jeff. They use a sort of phone app to find clues through people, and this guy wasn't even home when we get there. His wife's outside. And the girl from the car gets out and talks to her, comes back to the car, and the wife was like, "Oh, he's about 30 minutes away." So we all kind of awkwardly sit around, in the car for brief periods of time. It's nice that we didn't have to make up to talk, fill up the space. But the tension was kind of chest, and I was feeling it in my chest. Around this high-end neighborhood in a car that has this vague essence, smell of weed, and there's this nostalgic feeling for me and the people I used to hang around from that smell. So we sit at this stop sign for a little second, just staring at it, and it's got this black line around the whole frame. It's really bold, and the guy was like, rich people love doing shit like that. And I'm like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. So we're going through some areas that look like college towns back in Kalamazoo, some kind of place where kind of out of place people, eccentric looking, walking up and down, or there's these eccentric looking people walking up and down waving at us in the small town like we're totally out of place, and we all look like hippies, and there are these children with their parents waving towards us. They're on these riding mowers and they're waving us down like, hey, how's it going? So we pull down a dead-end road, park on the side, walk down this path. Immediately down, this guy picks up the shell and starts showing it to us. Like, whoa, there's so many shells. And the ground is absolutely littered with the things. A ton of tides are smashing into this low, muddy bank, kind of topped with rocks. A can of White Claw is smashed up on the shore, and the girl takes a step. She takes a step and immediately falls down. Pretty significant looking fall. We ask her if she's alright, and everything's good. So we all sat down on this thin wall talking about shows, parties, excess and wealth, the status drugs like pills and coke. They're only into smoking, only weed. We talk about robo-tripping and shrooms, which are those rare highs. I party a lot. I've seen some stuff the girl is talking about. We got into a conversation about South Carolina. And the guy was like, oh yeah, I was at Myrtle Beach, and I saw a lot of old people. It was like Florida. I almost saw these homeless people fight over there, but we missed it. He was talking about how he played a lot of billiards and pool down there. Like, oh yeah, I played a lot of pool, like billiards. There are conversations like, I used to pirate the Anarchist cookbook at school, but I never make the things. And I responded, like, I remember seeing stuff about that online. They made explosives on, like, BuzzFeed or something from the book. We started talking about weirdos a bit. He was all like, yeah, I didn't know how to read you, the nomadic energy. I didn't know if you were, like, a killer or something. And then, I have to think a lot about these people, because they have like a lot of self-preservation, not to put a lot of trust in some random stranger who doesn't have any real affiliations or any real meaning. I just exist outside the minds of many, especially here. So we watched the sun go down. We started taking pictures they started taking pictures like what I was doing the whole time, taking pictures, showing me like, yeah, I vibe with these. These are crazy. I love the energy. And he started talking about, like, you hear the thirds of photography, and I was curious, like, do you mean, like, a panorama, or are you, like, just cutting them into thirds? And he's all, like, the focus point, and he started pointing around, and I got it immediately, like, oh, so like taking a photo with like focus points, like multiple focus points. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm going for. He told me about this time he was hiding at Walmart. He had to work. He's all like, oh shit, I spent like 30 minutes trying to load up a cart. And then I ran around apologizing to the customers and my bosses. The customers were cool though. And oh, there's this one guy, the Hot Wheels guy who bought Hot Wheels. He came in talking about Wendigos and it freaked me out. I started sweating bullets and my heart was racing. I started putting away the Hot Wheels until he went away. And then he was all like, I thought you were high when I first met you at your store. You have so much energy, I took you for an acid freak. I responded like, oh yeah, that's like the postmodern aspect. I put on the simulacra and shut my brain off. Customer service is like that. I just kind of have to power through and operate off of this like heightened reality. Hopefully making people want to come back in because it's better to have customers who are kind of happy too. We talked about people who went crazy on acid, the kind of acid people who had schizophrenia. We talked about journaling too. We talked about like Pink Floyd and Syd Barrett and Daniel Johnston. Liz was talking in the background with the girl. The takeaway is these kids were like around high school age, like they were struggling. Their home lives were really disorienting. And they want a higher meaning. Things get stagnant and repetitive. There's no place for them to fit in. They put on this mask, this facade, and things become totally impossible to follow. What's the meaning of all of this? I hang around different people, all through various parts of their lives, and when do things start to make sense? That's what I find myself asking, myself. Because I resonate with a lot of these same issues. We exist just to exist, looking for some greater direction. I'm lost in my own head. I'm looking for my own meaning. Then I meet people younger than me with similar existential dread, and it's disorienting. The girl, she was forced to grow up too fast. She has to find her own balance. And we're all looking for our own meanings. It's devastating on so many different levels, what the youth are subjected to. Being so small, you can't defend yourself from the pain of oppressors. So we finally started slowing down. Things started getting more exhausting, and my mental state is kind of shaken. Liz was feeling really anxious about meeting that stranger Jeff. We went back to his place, and I essentially said we'll just stay in the car. He had a little recollection of the app. It was 2 years since he was put on it from a friend. Maybe it's a prank or something. Maybe his son's friend. So we started driving to the Circle K, narrowly missing a curb. And going in for a second, I came back out because I didn't find my drink, but my friend saw it, so I went back in and I grabbed the drink for Liz, blue raspberry sparkling ice. They were up in the front drinking Monster with the sugary tea drink, and they spilled it all over themselves, and they had to pull up at a gas pump and wipe down the car with napkins. So we were quietly talking about rural Indiana, again, going home on this long strip of road, and things were calm, I talked more with my chest because my throat was drying out, and I was trying to conserve what I could for this conversation. The conversations became more hard to comprehend, I kept missing things. But we finally had some final talks about work and trades, jobs that worked for the lifestyle of, maybe the stoner type. It was a dark ride home illuminated with the whites of streetlights, looking out, seeing towers flashing reds at the top against the blackish gray skies. The tops of trees were visible too, black silhouettes. The girl was completely quiet now. She was taking in the whole thing. We kept the vibe comforting towards them both so they can enjoy their high a little bit because it was a long journey. They're perceptive in a world that's largely indifferent towards them. They're very sensitive and alienated. These kids are out here coping, doing mind-numbing drugs to forget the day with no structure or support. They talk about wanting art with life lessons and how to navigate a world that gave them nothing and ask for so much in return. There is an extremely profound loneliness and a profound emptiness. Why is it so hard to communicate our frustrations? It really is that age-old quest of finding hope and finding optimism of our individual existences. We are on a journey to find our meaning still. When you're closer to the heart of America, the more everything blurs into each other. The wholesome American existence is a very lonely one.